Today I want to talk to you about the lens that changed my perspective on how I take photos. And that is the Voigtlander Color Skopar, the 28mm, the 2.8. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk It Over. First things first, for those who are new to the channel, I was a 35mm kind of guy for years and years. But that changed because I felt that I was getting closer and closer to my subjects or into the action. And 35mm was just a little bit too tight for that. I was missing the stories around my subjects, and I also needed to step back a lot to get everything in frame. So that is when I decided to test out if 28mm is my kind of focal length for the work that I do. And at that time, this little lens was released, and I thought this is the perfect opportunity to test it out. By the way, if you guys want a really technical and specs kind of review, I will link one down in the description. I'm more the guy who talks about the experience of using this lens and the results. So first, let's do the lens itself. It's the smallest lens that I've ever owned. And if you take the lens hood off, which comes with the lens, it's even smaller. Which means that on a rangefinder you have no viewfinder blockage, but it's also less noticeable and distracting. This is also a really light lens, which of course is because of the size, but still it's really well built. Just like any other Voigtlander lens, to be honest. They never disappoint. I bought the silver one because I think the silver one really fits well on a silver Leica M6 or on any silver M body, to be honest. I really think that it's one of the best looking lenses for this kind of setup. The silver build and materials really match well with the silver M6, even though they are more than 30 years apart. The focusing tab is incredibly smooth. It's a little bit closer to the body than the Ultron 35, but you will get used to it. Definitely, if it's such a small form factor, then it has to be closer to the body. The aperture ring is amazing and clicks well. Definitely nothing bad to say about the build quality of this lens. Feels really premium. I wanted to test this lens extensively because I think that's the only way you can really review a lens. And I tested it in every different situation. I even brought it with me to Suriname at the end of last year, and it performed really well. Before bringing it all the way up there, I didn't even see any results from it yet. So it was a little bit of a risk, but everything worked out. This lens is really sharp, nice rendition across the whole image if you stop it down from 5.6 and closer. And normally I shoot these ranges from f5.6 to f8, f11, f16 anyways. But when the light is getting low, I definitely put it at 2.8, which is the widest aperture for this lens. And here you will notice a lot of vignetting. And because I shoot film, I can't really correct for it. On digital, this is of course a really easy fix to do in Lightroom or whatever software that you use. But on film, it's not that easy. It's not that I hate it, but sometimes it's just a little bit too much for me. And this is most likely because of the lens design, keeping it that small of a footprint. So this is something to keep in mind if you are interested in this lens. Trust me, it's not a deal breaker to me at all, but just something that I noticed right away. Also, the distortion of this lens is very minimal. And that's crazy because of the short barrel that it has. So very nice design on that part. When you stop it down, this lens is very sharp across the whole image. And overall, the lens has beautiful colors. And yes, 28 gives me that extra room in the image that I was going for. Just to tell a little bit more of the scene without me stepping back. And that was the whole reason for me to get this focal length. And I guess it was the right choice. I didn't even touch the 35mm after getting this lens. And I might even sell them because it's really a shame to leave them unused. So the 28mm really opened things up for me. As a documentary / street kind of photographer, I like to zone focus a lot. And of course, that's also possible with a 35mm focal length, and I've done that for years, but the 28 makes it so much easier. The range of what's in focus on a 28 is so much larger than a 35, and that's nice to have when you are using the zone focus technique. Even at 2.8, I tend to zone focus quite a bit. And that brings us to the low light capabilities of this lens. Because this is a 2.8, of course, it might be, for some photographers, a little bit too narrow. If you are a digital photographer, I don't think that you have any problems with it. But on film, you might. Especially if you shoot slower speed films. My film of choice is Portra 800, and for black and white, I shoot a lot of HP5 or Tri-X pushed to 1600, so I don't have any problems with it. And also, with the Leica M6, I can easily shoot at 1/130th of a second. And also, to be honest, if the light's getting dead low, I probably pull out the flash. But if 2.8 is a deal breaker for you, you might want to check out some other options. The price of this lens is also a big part of my recommendation too. Because for the price of 700 euros, you will get a really good performing lens, which is really sharp and technically stunning, but also with some great character. The vignetting adds also something to it, and if you stop it down, the lens is very sharp across the whole image. Perfect for street or documentary photographers who really like to have a wider lens in their kit. And nowadays, I really like to pair this lens with a 50mm, which is also a Color Skopar from Voigtlander. But I will do a review about that later, if you guys are interested. I think that these pair so well together, so let me know in the comments if you want to see an episode about that. But why not use it in pair with the 35, you might ask? Well, I think that 28 and 35 are a little bit too close together. 50mm really stands out from 28. So when I need to get closer because I physically can't, or if I want to isolate the subject from the whole scene, I will use the 50. For instance, on this event where I used both, you can really see how I use those focal length and what the differences are. This episode is coming up too, by the way, so subscribe to the channel because you don't want to miss out on that one. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this lens for any photographer who likes to do documentary stuff, street work, or just day-to-day things, but need a wider lens in their kit. This is a perfect lens for that. Easy to use, very small, and optically very impressive. For this price, I wonder if there's anything that can compare. I wouldn't recommend this lens if you always need to shoot wide open. You might want to check out some other lenses that maybe go wider but also have less vignetting. Unless you like the look of it, of course. But that's really the only thing that's a little bit of a down to me about this lens. Again, not a deal breaker, but definitely something that is noticeable. But if you are somewhat like me, shooting higher speed films and you stop it down because of zone focusing, or if you are a digital photographer, then I think this 28mm lens is perfect. I would like to compare it to the Leica 28mm Elmarit because I've been itching to get my hands on that, and then we can see if it's worth it or not. For now, I want to thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week. Peace.